Hi, thanks for joining us for TM Talks. Today I'm really excited about the topic that we're going to bring you is about succession planning in your business. I think it's important and probably many of us don't spend time thinking about it. So today I have two experts, they're consultants with Pinecone Partners, Marcia and Jenna. So I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about your background and how Pinecone Partners operates and what expertise you bring to the table through Pinecone Partners.
My background is, we both work for large corporations, and we're both lawyers. And I started a small business in 2012, and everybody kept asking me for resources. So we organized Pinecone Partners, and what Pinecone does is it connects small businesses with professional resources, kind of educating them on topics like succession planning to make them successful.
I think what we could start with today is, why is succession planning important?
Most of the time, business owners are busy ramping up their business, growing their business, and they don't think about the unexpected, and they don't think about the future. And what happens is, if you don't have a plan for that, then the business suffers. So, for example, if you have, you need to step away from the business because of a family disability or medical treatment, you're going to be gone 6 months. Who's going to take over your role? How do you keep the business running in that period of time? Alternately, if you are retiring, do you have kids that want to take over the business, or do you need to sell it outright, or do you want your employees to take it over? And so all of that requires kind of thinking about that early in the process so that you have a plan to implement should something unexpected or long-term.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes the best choice, your best, succession plan option might take you 10 years to implement. So, you really want to think about it more than, well, I want to retire next year. I mean, maybe you want to think about it 10 years before you want to retire.
And the reason why it takes so long is, say you want to sell to employees. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes you have to help with the financing, or you have to structure the business in a way that you maybe sell it to them over time.
Or groom them.
Or groom them.
Right.
Exactly right. You got to hire the right people that are ready then to take over those responsibilities when you're ready to leave.
Right.
Yeah, as a business owner, I think sometimes it's easier to think about retirement because that's the end game. We want to make our business successful enough that we can retire someday. And you think about that as retirement as a long-term strategy. But I think what sometimes is forgotten is, what about the unexpected? And so like you said, is if we don't give enough time or planning to this, our options become much more limited.
Right. And have unintended consequences.
That's true.
Where the business will suffer because of that loss of a resource. And what you want to do is be able to continue business as usual.
Without interruption to your business.
When I say that's probably very true. When I look at my business, it's what I've put my heart and soul into, and I think a lot of people feel that way. So you want to kind of take care of it like it's your baby, plus your employees are depending on you to do the same.
That's right.
Because it's their life too.
That's right.
Right, exactly.
So I would assume that many people would think that succession planning might be for larger sized businesses, but I would assume you might think of that differently from your side of the table.
Yeah, that's definitely a preconceived notion of a lot of small businesses. But succession planning is actually just as important, and in fact, I would argue if possibly more important when you're a small business, because there's not a very clear plan for succession. A lot of them are, single business owners or a sole owner, or just a few owners, maybe even in the family. And it's really important to know what your next step is, and to overlap the estate planning piece, your personal estate plan with your business succession plan, because those interrelate. So it's really important to kind of get those both set up the way you want, if something were to happen to you.
And have the conversation. A lot of people never have a conversation about it and what they expect. Right. And so then, who is going to take over that responsibility? How is that going to be done? Mm-hmm. Because that affects then the options on how do you, carry the business forward.
Right. Well, when you talk about conversations, I would imagine that given certain events, there are emotions tied to those events. If it's unexpected, oftentimes those emotions are very stressful. And just probably even changing of lifestyle going into retirement is emotionally stressful because it's a change. So the more of this stuff you can have planned out, then you can deal with your emotions and not have more stress in that moment.
Right. The more that's documented and written down and agreed to by everyone ahead of time when those emotions aren't attached to it, and there's a very clear, reasonable plan, that's thought out before any of these events happen, is really a big benefit to that. There are tax implications too to a lot of these plans, which are really important to consider ahead of time. And if you structure those ahead of time, when these unexpected or expected events happen, you can deal with them from the best tax perspective as well.
A person doesn't know where to start. You can start with your accountant, and they'll have a certain view. The lawyer will have a certain view. And really what you need sometimes is a gatekeeper to tell you, okay, this is how they all fit together.
So I am excited. Hopefully this has been helpful just to stimulate some thoughts and some planning on your end. And I highly encourage you to reach out to Marcia or Jenna and see how this fits into your long-term strategies and prepare for maybe some involuntary instances that may come up, because planning is by far the best policy. Thanks for joining us today at TM Talks.